Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. And welcome back from a little bit of a break. I spent a week at the Olympics by the time this podcast has been released. So, I hope you all weren't missing the podcast too much in the few days we were off. But we are back to do more season previews. And this time it's a turn of the Arizona Cardinals. And with me today, I've got two returning guests to the podcast. My first guest is a Cardinals fan, well known for his time on 88 Sport. If you follow Instagram and TikTok, you'll know his face very well. With me today is Sam Morgan, otherwise known as UKSammo. Sam, how are things?
I'm good, mate. I really appreciate that intro. So I'll take that all day long. But yeah, all good, mate. Not many Thursdays left before we have football, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward to obviously seeing it all again, mate. So pleasure having me on.
Well, always good having you on. Always good seeing you in person. From the London games and all the events. Met you a few times now, and it's always good to see you. And I'm hoping, you mentioned the first Thursday of the season. The first Friday of the season is the Eagles Packers, and I've just literally in the last 2 hours applied for my media cred. So hopefully, I'll be seeing you in Brazil.
And yes, mate. Yeah, Brazil's going to be a good one. Hopefully you can get out there. It will be good. And what a game to host, right? It's a big game for anyone, even if you are not supporting any of those teams.
Absolutely. As a neutral, it's going to be great. And, I've had this bucket list thing for years to go and see the Christ Redeemer. So I think I'll find time, if I do get creds, to have a day or two to make the move out to Rio from Sao Paulo and go to that. I think that would be a chance I can't really turn down. I'm sure there'll be probably a few maybe have the same idea as me, but that could be quite a good few days away. But my second guest is also a returning guest, former head coach of the Brighton Panthers, University of America football team, and Cardinals fan. He was on our podcast just a few weeks ago when we were doing a start bench trade, it was not trade, edition of quarterbacks. With her today is Oliver Kent. Ollie, how are things?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, not too bad. Like I was saying, I'm recording this podcast the day before I head to the Olympics, and it's coming out the day after I come back. So, looking forward to that. I've been to one of the events in the UK in 2012, but I think it always feels a lot different when it's different country, a foreign country, and again to see Paris, and I think I'm going to the football Marseille and the basketball Lille. But I'm hoping to do a few more events in the Paris area, and looking forward to going to a few fan zones. So yeah, looking forward to that a lot. And yourself, obviously, you mentioned before that you got back into coaching, and you be doing some Team GB coaching recently, or that's tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So probably be the week before this comes out. After this comes out. So we've got camp day. We've got one more camp day on the 10th of August, and then at the end of August we travel to Dublin to play Ireland. So looking forward to that. Should be good.
Awesome. And don't forget, we are, as a podcast, going to Ireland for the college games. Don't forget to keep an eye out our socials and my own TikTok, Andy Talks NFL, for all the college football Ireland content. But today's podcast is all about the Arizona Cardinals, and I want to go through some main ins and outs. The main ins include the likes of Desmond Ridder via a trade with the Falcons, Rondell Moore going the other way, Zay Jones, Jonah Williams, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Mac Wilson, and DJ Dallas, and to name a few, are the main headline ins. And I do apologise if I've forgotten certain players. The main outs I could find really were Marquise Brown, Marlon Mack, as well as Rondell Moore. And then main ins in the draft include, obviously, the main headline one, Marvin Harrison Jr., 4th overall out of Ohio State, the wide receiver. Other one, to name a few, would be Darius Robinson, defensive end out of Missouri, 27th overall. 43rd overall was Max Melton, cornerback out of Rutgers. And also later on in the draft, you had the likes of Isaiah Adams, the guard out of Illinois, and also Tip Ryman, 82nd overall, the tight end out of Illinois as well. So back to you, Sam. Your take on the team's offseason as a whole.
I mean, how can you not be excited about that 4th overall without stating the obvious in Marvin Harrison Jr.? I'm still waiting for my jersey, though, so hopefully they get that sorted out.
Have you ordered it?
Soon enough. For me, actually, it's actually Trey Benson that I'm actually really excited about, actually going in there as a running back right now. Obviously, I think James Conner for us is elite. Like, he's great. And you see him with the angry runs every year, but it was always a worry of if it does break down, and there was no one really sort of stepping up to give him those rests and those reps. So I'm quite excited about now our running back sort of depth chart is actually looking pretty exciting. Sean Murphy-Bunting coming in. a bit of experience there at cornerback. Like, I think that's what we needed. You know, we needed a bit more experience in there. And I think right now with Gannon and what he's doing for us in terms of galvanizing the roster, really hard on defense at the moment. I think he's brought in the right people at this stage. Paris Johnson Jr. going over to left guard, I believe, obviously, for this season as well. So I think that's going to be really important for us. I think the moves that he's made and Monty has made has been great. I think you can get excited about this season, but ultimately, as a Cardinals fan, it's just about watching the progression. And I think right now what we've done moves off the field have been great. One name you didn't mention about actually leaving was Zach Ertz, because I think,
of course, yeah, I mentioned him on the Washington one literally a day or two ago. I mentioned Zach Ertz. I always think of more of an Eagle than a Cardinal.
Of course, but McBride. The thing is, McBride, obviously, what he is, he's the main man at the end of the day. So yeah, really excited with it. Tip coming in as well is great, but it just shows you the confidence that they got in these young lads that they got in from last year. So I think there's going to be a couple of breakout seasons from the players that were picked up last season. And yeah, this connection. And actually, the most important one is Kyler Murray, because we didn't really have Kyler last year. Last year was like he was doing pre-season at the end of the last season, and you saw the difference. So yes, super happy. I can see Ollie smiling away with a few names as well. So I'm sure a few of us are quite excited about this season.
Yeah, it's amazing what 12 months does, because we came on last year, and it was seen by many that you were going to have the Caleb Williams draft pick, and there was a lot were down, and I think you guys, credit to both of you. You were both very supportive of Kyler Murray, and I think what we have seen almost when he's not been playing, almost even just as much as when he's playing, how valuable he is to the team. Because when you saw him not playing, you saw just how bad the quarterback play was, and I think you see an immediate impact. And let's not forget, he lost John J. Hopkins, and that was his main guy in the first 2-3 years of his career. And obviously, let's not forget the Hail Murray in the 2020 season, and 2021 he was going for the MVP. I think the first 10 weeks he was definitely a contender for that award. And I think obviously the whole team sort of fell away, but I think you could probably aim a lot of that Cliff Kingsbury more than Kyler Murray. I think
we don't mention his name, Andy. That name doesn't get mentioned anymore.
That reminds me, I always try and avoid using the name Adam Gase a lot of the time. So I know exactly how you feel. It's it must bring back whole memories, and yeah, good luck to Commanders. But for you, Ollie, also, we mentioned Marvin Harrison there, and for yourself as well, how happy are you with the off season? Because Desmond Ridder is a serviceable backup. Zay Jones had some good moments in the NFL. Murphy Bunting, as Sam was saying, very experienced, won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. And yeah, you've lost the likes of Rondale Moore and Marquise Brown, but I wouldn't say they're like huge losses. I don't think they're like, none of them are really like elite player, like top 5 players in their position. So I think, these players, yes, some of them are good, and you've lost a few, but I think ultimately as well, you've brought in equally some very good players. So yeah, how happy are you, Ollie, with
I'm really pleased. I think it's nice to have some adults in the front office for a change. And I think, to be honest, there's 2 real big reasons for me to be excited. Is first of all, we're on the rise, right? Like you look at it. So we've had I think it's 12 draft picks in this draft, 10 in the previous. It's 22 players, all under contract, cheap deals, right? That's 22 out of your 53 roster spots occupied by cheap, young, emerging talent. You can't be happier with that. You mentioned some of the names that are brought in. It's sort of my second point. The names that are brought in, none of them are particularly flashy. They're not big spenders. I think next year we're projected to have something like $80 million in cap space. It's sustainable team building. It's building in the right places. It's going young where you need to go young. Look at that cornerback room, like Sean Murphy Bunting. No one's necessarily going to turn their head at that, but that room is now flooded with about 8 guys who are relatively cheap, can compete, can work within a system. Still got the likes of good leaders on the team, like a James Conner, like a Buda Baker. Paris Johnson emerging is one of those guys as well, and Kyler Murray, I think, probably maturing a bit more this year. But and then you do get some splash plays, like McBride's going to have a fantastic year this year. MHJ, everyone's obviously excited about. You mentioned Trey Benson, Sam. I think a lot of the other thing in terms of that sustainable team building is they've got insurance policies in place now. You look at the Kime era and the additions they brought in. It's just guys who are like 30 odd, and they just throw money at them, and it was a retirement home. JJ Watt still had like a good period when he was here, but he was on the back nine of his career. Rodney Hudson was an absolute flame out. Hopkins, like you say, was good, but he wasn't Texans Hopkins. Like it was, the last 2-3 years of these guys' career, big chunks of money chucked at them, and then you turned around afterwards and went, well, what's next? We've got no money and no one to come in for them. So, James Conner's in career year. Trey Benson probably going to take the mantle next year. It's optimistic, exciting. There's a clear direction of where they want to go. But I think it's all setting up for a massive year next year, to be honest with you. It's just, I don't know about you, Sam. I just want to see good stuff out this year and build on, I don't necessarily want to make the playoffs. So it'd be fantastic. But for me, something like 8 wins, I'd be relatively happy with that, as long as there's like optimism going into next year with money to play with a decent set of draft picks to play with, some good points.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to get to. I think ultimately, when you look at it now, you're not going to get a ring on your finger this year.
No, of course not.
Ultimately, that's what you got to know and have that realization. You're not going to do that, but it is that progression. You kind of want to be somewhere where if you ended up like with top 10 pick, and it was the 10th pick. I mean, you had a better season than where we were obviously previously.
Yeah.
We're able to obviously get another top 10 pick in there. As you just mentioned there about the cap space, is actually next year is the one where you're probably going to go, okay, I need to see something now. And
it's attractive as well. You've created an attractive culture actually to that point where you're not relying on chucking money at old dogs. You can actually go out and say, right, who is the best free agent guy? Let's give them some deserved money, a good 5-year, 4-year contract or whatever. And then you've actually added some serious talent to your team that's putting you in a position to push on beyond those years. That's what it's about. I think Monty knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly the direction he's going in and the vision he's going in. And it's just reassuring. It's like there's a comfort about this team now.
It really is. Yeah, 100%.
Well, you mentioned comfort. You mentioned next year. Of course, one player that, his future is a bit in doubt is Buda Baker. He's in the final year of his contract.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all know the NFL is no guarantee that, a player's going to stay. And it's a very business sort of model where players move all the time. So in terms of that, where do you stand on next year? You've got the cap space, as you mentioned then. Do you see him signing a new deal, or do you see him moving on and maybe chasing a ring towards the end of his career?
I think it's just the right price. I think that's really what it comes down to. And I spoke about insurance policy again. We got Rabbit Taylor Demison in the 4th or 3rd round, I think it was, out of Texas Tech. Monty is making sure that he's not in a position where he's going to be out leveraged with these guys, right? And I think the franchise owes a lot to Buda Baker. He's been one of the few bright sparks over some torrid times, and he's clearly a leader on defense. Gannon clearly loves him, but it's a devalued position. He's going to be 30 years old, and it's one of those things of I think if you turned around and went, look, we can do 2 years, 20 million. 15 guaranteed or something like that, then I think we'd be happy, and I think the team would be happy with that. It's just what does Buda want? But like I say, hopefully if we can put ourselves in a position this year where we become attractive and we can turn around to Buda and go, look, the money might not be there, but this is potentially going to be one of your better shots and you really have been part of something.
I think that's what I think you hit the nail on the head though, Ollie, though, actually, when it comes to with Buda. When it was the trade talks and him putting in sort of trade requests, it was about the fact that he was seeing the Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury and watching the organisation burn, really. Whereas I think now you see how he's changed. You've seen his persona change. I think Gannon just come out in a recent press conference saying he stole the thunder. He took my speech. He went with it. Like he ran and has got this team going. I mean, ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think Buda comes at... Everyone wants money, of course. But I don't think coming across like that's the motivator at the moment. I think he loves Arizona. He loves obviously the organisation if it's going and in the right direction. I think he got false pretenses when we brought in JJ Watt and we had D-Hop, and he probably thought he was going somewhere that actually wasn't. When he saw how that sort of blew up, then I think obviously he had to make that change.
I think the other big thing as well is you look at the safety market. I think Eddie Jackson just got signed for like the vet minimum or something like that. You got Simmons, who's arguably one of the top 5 safeties. He's still not been picked up. Like it's a dangerous market out there to be a free safety, like no matter how good you are and at that age as well. And so, he's going to have some decisions to make. I'd love him to still be a part of it, but I back Monty in decisions he makes realistically, and it's nice to have that wiggle room next year, like we say with some of the cap. Where are we going to maybe offer $2 million more a year than someone else is prepared to? Fine, we'll bite the bullet, but he's not going to get a $20 million a year kind of deal. It's just not going to happen. I think he probably knows that.
I've got to say, someone's got a really lovely backdrop. It sounds like you're in some sort of.
It's me.
Is it you?
You're in Brighton, aren't you?
Me. Yeah, I'm. No, I'm in Clapham, and I'm like, I've just got the window open, and there's like a massive like hurricane nest near my bloody window. So, yeah. Just give me some good vibes.
It feels like we're doing a podcast, like a live one outside.
There you go,
massive
one there.
In the botanical gardens or something like that. It feels
like Kew Gardens podcast.
Yeah. We mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. We mentioned about Kyler Murray's sort of best period being when he had Hopkins and being an MVP, one of the favourites at one point. Now, Harrison isn't in the rookie year, and expectations are probably that you can't guarantee they're going to be hit off straight away. But do you think that with Murray sort of now his future's almost certain, because the talk was last year, are they going to get Keller Williams, or are they going to go and get rid of Kyler Murray and all the Call of Duty memes that were going on last year in that contract he got? And I think that do you guys feel like with Marvin Harrison Jr. he can be the guy that elevates Kyler Murray back to what he was before Hopkins left, before his injury, and before all that kind of stuff?
I think it's the whole offense. Again, I say this like, I know you go on about Hopkins, but again, that was his back nine of his career, right? Okay, when we traded him, right, and he went, there wasn't a massive rush and grab to go get him. The league told you what they thought of him, right? He went to a Titans roster that was sloppy as it gets, and lost variably and everything like that. It wasn't, and I think the only other team that was supposedly interesting was the Patriots, and they're exactly in the same position. There was no big contenders going, we've got to have this guy, we've got to have him, let's sell the house to get him. The league told you the level that he was playing at. I don't think this team has had something like just a legit blue chip guy outside of what probably Trey McBride's going to be this year. We've needed this for a very long time. It was never going to be Hollywood Brown, right? Hopkins, like I said, is back nine, and then you had 40-year-old Larry, who I loved. Larry, Fitz was great, but again, it's retirement home here, is it? It's not that dog that
Well, Larry Fitzgerald is, we haven't actually ever replaced him. Let's be honest.
No, exactly.
We haven't done that. The difference, I think, what you're saying about, onto your earlier point about Kyler right now, is actually when he did come back, we finally got to see Michael Wilson for what he actually is.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see him. Dobbs didn't really utilize him too much. Dobbs was very much like dump it to James Conner and obviously look good or run himself. And it was like, that's not, And
I know that every fan base says it, but I do think our weapons are criminally underrated actually in the league. Like Michael Wilson is a solid 2. If you lined up all the number 2 receivers in the league, he'd be in the top 10 of number 2 receivers, right? You then look at Marv, you line up all the number 1 receivers in the league, Marv is going to be, easily a top 10 guy in that category. You then add up the tight end, McBride's probably going to be a top 5 guy, right? That's 3 positions alone. Yeah.
You haven't mentioned George either.
Exactly. You haven't even mentioned George, who no one even knows about, right?
Yeah.
You've got James Conner there, Trey Benson, all of these different things. I think we've been so slept on. I think the biggest issue for us is actually going to be the defense, and particularly that front 7. But I honestly think this offense has got so much potential. Look at the last 4 games of Kyler, all sort of top 10 rankings. That was without MHJ. It's going to be exciting to watch this year.
Yeah, I think Kyler's still the guy.
I agree.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think people obviously seeing a different focus on him. I know there might be all of the Call of Duty bits now. They've slowly dwindled away, especially when you got like Bryce Young turning up like a high school kid as well to practice. I think people have kind of turned the focus on him. And finally, I think what will happen this year is with what Kyler's now got weapon-wise and what the Cardinals will bring this season is ultimately a level of respect will come across to the organisation and Kyler that I think he obviously deserves. Like
that
the guy's an athlete. Yep. Like let's not forget this guy was he's the only athlete to be drafted in the top 10 for 2 sports. He is a sports person. No one else has done that. I've just seen for you boys, Andy, Tua's just signed $212 million extension.
Oh, really?
So
I haven't seen that.
That's stupid.
Well, and to me, a lot of people talk about Tua, but they need to be, Kyler gets more stick than Tua, which for me never really sits right to me.
It's a discourse thing. It's just a discourse thing. All it is Arizona is a small market, right, in the NFL media world, right? So the only way that people engage with them is headlines and what's chopped up, and that's it, right? So that's where that Call of Duty stuff and all that kind of stuff. People who actually watch him in and out and engage with us on an actual basis know what he is and exactly where his weaknesses are and exactly where he needs to get better and also what he is. And I think something to be said is he got brought in to an organization that had Steve Keim, and the year before, Josh Rosen was the pick. Right, it was a dumpster fire, and all these questions about he's never had a proper team around him. Right, all these and coaching. Cliff is 4-letter word in our parts, but you look at all this stuff, and you're the face of the franchise. If the franchise sucks, then unfortunately you're going to be the one to take it. But the thing is like we say, we know he can play at an MVP level. We know he can play with an MVP level. And now that there's, like you say, proper sustained, talent being put into the program, like he's just going to get better and he's going to show people what he really is.
Yeah. I think this year is certainly his year to. I think every quarterback has that year where they have like that break. And I think Murray's he's had these great moments, but I think this year will be a year where, if he stays healthy the whole year, I do generally think I think you're right. I think if he stays the whole year, if he's healthy, I think we'll see him. I don't think MVP, but I think we'll see him at a point where
top 10.
Like any doubts about him are completely evaporated, because I think the way it's been without him the last year, as I said before, has really shown everyone that actually he is the guy for you guys. And I think, with this year coming up in what obviously is a hard division, but I do generally think that he will be. Yeah, probably top 10 passing wise. I think rushing wise, you have a lot of yards there as well, and I think his numbers will be great there. So I think all around, there's lots to be optimistic, and really, it can't get any worse than the last 2 years. So the only way is up.
I didn't mind last year.
I didn't mind last year.
It was quite fun.
I think a lot of people were saying we weren't going to win a single game.
Yeah,
and actually, Andy, I remember you came. Yeah, this pod we did last time, when I was like saying these wins, you were like, oh, what more? I think I did like 4 or 5 wins. You were like,
I'm annoyed. I said 5 and 12, and if Prater didn't miss that kick at the end, I'd have been spot on. But because
he got got 6 wins, and it was 4 wins total. So yeah, you guys weren't that far away from getting it right, as you said, Ollie. You both very.
We knew exactly what it was going to be, and we knew it wasn't going to be a year that we were going to be winning loads of stuff. It was just fun to watch.
The Washington game actually disappointed me the most. The opening game against the Commanders actually disappointed me the most.
The Giants one for me when we let them back. That was the worst for me. Yeah. The Tune massacre in Cleveland. I do feel for him. But
yeah.
Well, we are going to head on to the final segment, which is going to be the win-loss-tie section. For those of you who aren't familiar at home listening to this format, every fan who comes on predicts their team's record by going through each game and answering with a win-loss-tie answer. Now, as you are a duo, you will take it in turns between games to predict, so you will get a combined record between you both for the 2024 season. So I'm going to let you guys choose who goes first out of you two. Who wants to take the reign in week 1 on the road to Buffalo?
How optimistic are you, Ollie?
I think this is it's a depleted Buffalo team. I think it is a depleted, but it's not the Buffalo team of old. That defense last year, it's not as good as this. This year is a decline. They've lost some talent. Don't get me wrong, the cornerstones are there. They've obviously got Josh Allen. McDermott is still it's a solid franchise. It's one of these franchises that's been run well, good pieces in place at all times. With that said, I think we probably open with an L. I do.
Yeah.
Right. So week 2 for you, Sam. It's a home game against the LA Rams.
Oh, mate. This is the one. See, Ollie, I would have gone with a win first because
you'd have gone the other way around.
I would have gone the other way around here. But I don't. The Rams just have our number at the moment.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go with an L.
Fair enough. Doesn't get any easier. What a start this is. Week 3, you're at home to the Lions. Ollie, win, loss, or tie?
I'm going to put this as a win. This one, like, don't get me wrong, that Lions team is great. It is really good, but I think that I think like a lot of these games are a lot closer than people think. Like last year, we've had a couple of games where it was like 20-point differences, 15-point differences. There's going to be a lot of field goal differences, I think, this year. I think looking at the schedule, you're right, it's front-loaded. But if you can get something like 3 wins in this first half of the season, the back 9 of the season is pretty prime for the taking. But I like us versus Detroit. I'm gonna take us versus Detroit.
Yeah, I've got to say the difference between your fixtures before the bye and after the bye
it's crazy.
Very different.
Yeah. And you want to be good at the end. You want to be good at the end. That's
true.
Key.
Very true, because I don't know how, you guys know from yourselves, like you started very well in 2021, and then obviously the wheels fell off towards the end of the year and you went out first round to the Rams, obviously when ended up winning it. And you see the Patriots for years would go on these 4-5 or 6-5 runs, and everyone would be saying, is the dynasty now over? And then before you know it, they win their last few games and they get the playoffs in hot form and they go on and win it. And I think the Chiefs are starting to do that a bit now as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think really it doesn't matter what you do really in the first 9 weeks, because it all matters really how you do in the final few weeks and then the playoff. I think that's
December football. That's where it matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of wish my team could realise that how important December football is. But
it's because you guys are used to nice hot weather. So when you get into December football, you've got to go on the road a bit. You just absolutely crumble.
But there's a lot of players that they're from, like, you think of Tua, who's notoriously struggling in cold weather, but he grew up in Hawaii. Like, surely he should be used to hot weather. Like, it's Hawaii.
Yeah, that's it. But this is it. You get Buffalo go early to Miami and sweat out and find it a horrible time, and then you guys at the end of the year have to go to Buffalo in December, and it's like the worst experience of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so thankful playing in week 9 this year in Buffalo.
Yeah.
We're annoying we got him in the nighttime game. I'd love to have a daytime game in our week 2 game, because that would, I think there was players on the floor. We talked about it in the Bills episode. Players on the floor that hot, in the game in 2022. So I think it's a shame that one's in night. I think it'd be a bit cooler, but I'm just so glad that we're not playing the Bills on the road in week 18, because that's always been a trouble for us playing Buffalo at any time of the year. But I think especially in the cold, it's pretty brutal. I'm not gonna lie. Week 4, Sam, gets a bit easier now. As you
this is the one that I'm just like, I think this could be like Marvin Harrison Jr. will come out and really show himself in this game. I really think this could be one where it's like, welcome to the NFL. I think this is going to be a big game. So big W for us. On that
W, a big W. That's extreme confidence there. I mean, I think you're right about Harrison, because I think you think about the 3 teams you're playing. I mean, Bills, Rams, Lions, all going to be, you think in the playoffs this year, and they're going to be, have much better defenses than the Commanders will. I think that'll be his chance to, really, as you say, really show the league what he can do. And I think, it'll be a lot harder I think the Commanders players struggle a lot more to cover him than the Bills, Rams, and Lions players maybe will.
Without coming back too much on the Bills have lost quite a lot of that.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, with Poyer going, and they lost quite a few others, obviously, that were retired. It was aging. And the Bills aren't notoriously great starters. That was my reasoning when I was saying,
I get that. I think my thing was just, it's week 1.
Yeah.
Let's not get too optimistic. Like, Kyle is still, getting into the swing of it or whatever. And these guys need to gel a little bit. And to be fair, our defense is absolutely still pretty wobbly. The nicest way to put it, I guess. Yeah. I just think we match up better with something like a Lions or something. Really do. But yeah, no, I like that. 2-2 makes sense.
Well, week 5, Ollie, you're on the road to the 49ers.
yeah. We can just go on to week 6, Andy. It's fine.
Yeah,
we know it's now.
Yeah,
fair enough. Well, week 6, Sam, you're going to Lambeau Field. Of course, your good friend Ash used to be, I'm sure, maybe watching the game. Oh, no, this will be on in the London game, actually. You'll be doing London work, so I'm sure you'll both be, after the game, heading to the nearest bar and trying to watch it.
I'm not sure if I will be going to the bar with Ash for this one because I think that they will win. So I really think that the Packers are a team that maybe people need to respect a little bit more this year. I think with Jordan Love, I think he'll having another season at it. I think that they're a team to keep an eye on. And at Lambeau, I'm not sure we get anything out of this one. I think that will be an L for us. I think the Pack get the win.
Yeah, good. No, it's a good outing. It's a good fit. Yeah.
So, week 7, you have a home game against the Chargers.
I like this one. I like this for us. I think Justin Herbert is absolutely class. I think again they've probably lost some key pieces. Like offensively, I don't know who's going to catch the ball from them. I think Harbaugh's still going to be cutting his teeth a bit. I think he's a great coach. He's a bit weird, but he's still going to be getting into the groove of it a little bit. I like our odds here. I think this is one's a dub.
Okay, so then a game I'm going to be going to in week 8 on the road to the Dolphins at the Hard Rock Stadium.
This is so difficult. Well, do you know what? You know what's difficult with the Dolphins is there's always so much stuff that goes on off the field with the Dolphins that by week 3,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be the players. Mike McDaniel's come up with some quirky thing that he said it's upset someone. Tyreek Hill's thrown his toys out of his little pram or something.
I will say this though, Sam. This team is not the team of old. Like they're a lot more resilient. Like you look at that Steelers game last year, where that thunderstorm, that big delay, and all that kind of stuff. They still came through. This isn't a Cliff Kingsbury. Throw the slippers on. It's
sorry, Andy, you're going to go a long way, but I actually think we caused some damage.
Yeah, same.
Don't tell me that. No.
Yeah. So just cancel your flight, mate. It's not worth it. Don't worry about it.
It's not worth it.
But yeah, W against the Dolphins.
100%.
To be fair, my record at live games, Dolphin games, is 0-5. So maybe I shouldn't be going at all.
Okay, don't cancel.
Yeah, off you go. Nice little 2 or 5 interception game. That's what we need.
Oh god, if that happens, oh god, it's
pay me money.
It's going to be hard, and I think it's already sort of in amongst Fins Nation UK. There's a lot of people who are telling me don't go to Frankfurt last year, and don't go to Philly last year, or don't go to this game. And yeah, I think if I lose again, there's going to be serious eruption on socials. So, week 9, you're at home to the number 1 overall pick in the Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears.
I think it's going to be a great game. I still think it's going to be us. I still think we're going to get a dub on it. I think they are one draft behind us, right? I think this year for them is what last year was for us. I think we're one rotation ahead of them, if that makes sense, right? Caleb's going to be good. I think, but he's such an up and down player. I just don't think the consistency will be there. I think one week he'll absolutely smash out the park and have 5 touchdown performance and all that kind of stuff. But the next week he'll throw 3 picks or whatever. He's going to be better than Justin Fields, I think. And they've just thrown money at a lot of their problems, and you do sort of say, is that necessarily the right fix? Yeah, I like us. I think last year we had a decent chance and it just didn't go our way. So, yeah, I'm going to say it's a win.
I will say for Caleb, though, you talk about Murray going into a team with Kings being Kai. I mean, how often do you get a number 1 overall pick go into a 7-win team who goes out and gets Keenan Allen, who goes out and gets DeAndre Swift, already has DJ Moore?
Yeah, but you see this, like Keenan Allen's 40 and he moves like Harry Kane up front. It's just it's not it.
Yeah, I've seen your socials actually. Not the biggest.
No, we can do a Harry Kane hate watch another day. Don't worry.
Well, of course, Sam, you're an Arsenal fan, aren't you? So you can't be, I'm sure, the biggest fan of Harry Kane.
Who?
That's what we were saying the whole of the tournament, right? I don't think I saw him do much apart from it's the most fortunate top scorer or joint top scorer ever, because 2 of them are penalties and one of them was one of the easiest goals you could ever score, literally given to one to play against Denmark. It was very fortunate golden boot. before your Week 11 bye, you've got a Week 10 home game against Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets.
I mean, I can't see the Jets. I saw someone put them in the power rankings. We're in the top 10.
I'm with you, Sam. I can't see it.
I can't see it. What's changed? They're saying about Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, how long is he going to last? He's going to. If it doesn't go his way, I just don't see it.
Last year. Yeah, he didn't play last year. Even the year before that, he didn't exactly light it up.
No,
he's 2-3 years removed from a decent season.
Those that know me and watch my stuff know I'm not his biggest fan anyway. When he was at the Packers, and I never really got it. And I kept saying that the Packers would be better off without him. And now they're actually seeing this now come to fruition a little bit. And with the Jets, I think it's like, we talked about retirement home. With some of the players that they brought in, they kind of chucked a load of stuff at it, hoping it would stick. And I just don't think it's there. I feel for Wilson, that's obviously involved in the organisation. I know the organisation is trying to do a lot of stuff to galvanise New Jersey, as it were. But I think generally, I just don't get it. I really don't get it.
I think they're probably on par with us. I really do. I think they're, but while we're going up, they're probably. You start going, opposite each other on the escalators. I really do.
And I think right now, for a home game against them, right now at that time, I think that's a win for us. We got to preempt a lot of things here, but I think there's going to be a lot of our rookies that will start to ramp up by then. At that point, I think we're going to be in a good place. So, that's a W for us, Andy. I think on that. And actually, if you go off the back of what we've done there, we're hitting a bit of form just before the bye, which is probably okay. Just a bit of rest time.
We know what we're doing, Sam.
Yes.
I think I'm a bit higher on the Jets. I mean, I loved hearing that negativity because I never want them to do well. But it's I do feel like they're getting 7 wins with Zach Wilson or Trevor Siemian. I do think Rodgers, and I looked at the stats. Actually, mentioned it in the Jets episode where Rodgers' last season in Green Bay, yards wise, would have made him the 4th or 5th most yards for any Jets quarterback in any season in their history.
Oh, it's not hard though, is it?
No, it just shows if they can win 7 games with Zach Wilson or Simeon, whoever it's been the last few years, then I'm sure they can win 9, maybe 10 with Rodgers. And I know the O-line is pretty banged up. It was pretty bad last year. They have added players like Fashanu in the draft this year, so I do worry about them. I think for Rodgers, where I saw him hobbling in that OTA, I do worry about that, whether he will come back as the same player, because it's not like it's a lot harder to come back from injury when you're 40 than it is when you're 21, and it doesn't matter how many, darkness retreats or let's say the devil's lettuce he smokes. It's I don't think it's always gonna it's necessarily he can go back and be the same player. I think he can have it in his head, but whether he can perform, I think if he performs anything, half of what he's normally like, I think comeback player of the year is his guaranteed. But I think that's the only thing for me. That footage I saw of him hobbling around in OTAs, I do worry about whether he will actually come back and be any good.
If he just says I can't be bothered halfway through the year.
Wouldn't shock me. I mean, you think about all the hype he had going into it and all the sort of talk about it prior to last year. If he only has 4 snaps and then disappoints this year, has to be one of the worst trades in history.
I'll tell you the biggest one actually. The biggest one for me is he's come in on the top 100, hasn't he?
I saw that. I couldn't believe 92nd, wasn't it, or something? I couldn't believe that when I saw it. That is just players voting.
Roger, Aaron Rodgers. Let me just try and, for people that maybe are into the football element here as well. This is how I see Aaron Rodgers. And sorry, Andy, this is probably a little dig at you as well.
Oh no!
People talk about the Man City Liverpool era, and they go for every time that Man City have won it and Liverpool have won one. That is Aaron Rodgers. Everyone talks about putting him in that elite piece. It's like that's not you. You've had your time once. In my head, where it was like you had your moment, and now you've tried to hang on to everyone else's success to say I'm in that elite little club. And
I'd have to disagree purely from a football, an actual playing perspective. He's probably one of the best natural passers ever. The talent is unreal.
You can only go off the success in terms of where you put yourself. I'm not saying he's a bad football player, Ollie. What I'm trying to say is that he puts himself in a position where you're hyping yourself up so much that you should have had a few more rings on those fingers.
No, that's fair.
And you should have carried. And if you're that good and you're an elite player, you pull your teams through to certain places. If you talk about the Chiefs, and the Chiefs haven't, weren't playing that well, who is it that pulls them through? It's Kelsey, it's Mahomes. You're putting two elite people through. How many, if anything, when you had Devontae Adams and Rodgers, should they have not been doing a lot more? That's why I just think he believes his hype too much. He's a good player, but he put himself so high up on the pedestal that I do not mind shooting him down every single time I see him.
Oh, I think he invites it. I think he invites it. I do, but yeah.
And that's why he's in the Jets.
It's funny you mention that because I did a TikTok series over the summer where I compared every NFL team to a football team, and it was the Packers Liverpool for that exact reason of all the talent we had. We had Jurgen Klopp, only won Premier League, sadly, and for Packers, only one Super Bowl with Rodgers. Now, I do feel like Rodgers was probably hindered by Mike McCarthy for a lot of years.
But, that's what I think. That those Green Bay defenses during his time, there's a conversation to be had there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if Rodgers had Andy Reid or had Belichick, I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot more rings. But it is what it is, and them the breaks, I think, and he only won one. But I think talent-wise, you think about Dan Marino, he never got a ring, but you knew how talented he was. But the one thing that always gets put on him with, didn't win a Super Bowl. And I think Rodgers, to only make one Super Bowl as well, same as
that's the other thing. I think that probably is fair. Yeah, like it's one thing to have a championship; it's another thing to only have got there one. But we could talk here for hours.
Like,
like the one for me that just springs to my mind is like just off the cuff, the Seahawks Packers NFC Championship game where they came back. Like that's not his fault. That's not his fault. He's not the one who makes them drop the onside kick and stuff at the end of the game and then plays defense. Like, yeah, you could go back through the rabbit holes and do it all. Yeah. Anyway, let's get Cardinals to 10 wins on the season. Come on.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Seattle. That is the place for
the next one.
2 of the 3 games. So it's first of all a road game in week 12. It was Ollie this one.
I think Seattle's on decline as well. I think Geno Smith is he's just so bang average. Like, I mean, I just see him as a bit of a Josh Dobbs. I also think the loss of Pete Carroll is completely underestimated there. I think it's going to be another classic Seattle defense. Like, they've got some real talent there. And like, if you look at matchups, we want to talk matchups and where we're strong on offense. Like Marv is going to have to earn his stripes there against, he's got Weatherspoon. I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. They've got 2 like solid corners there. The secondary is pretty good. So like from a matchup perspective, it's a good secondary against some good offensive weapons. Our defense needs to be sort of in gear. I'm still going to chalk. Actually, did you say it was home or away, that one?
This one is on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to take that. I'll chalk that one as an L.
Okay, so moving on to week 13 with you, Sam. It's another road game, but this time against the Vikings.
Who's going to be QB?
That is probably McCarthy at that point.
I think it'll be Darnold.
Do you?
I think they'll give McCarthy the whole year off.
Really? Wow.
Unless Darnold absolutely shoots himself in the foot.
I think he's had the tools been down for too long, Darnold. I think for him to be there at this game, I think McCarthy will be in by then. I'll tell you who actually I think will have the decision will be Jet. I think he will end up making that decision.
He'll say who he wants. He'll call who he wants his number, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, that's that power that he's probably got when he's just signed that new deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I've actually got us down for an L on this, is because of that. And I don't know where we'll be on in the back line of our defense at that point. I think he will be that. I think he will just get that one for us. But I think that'll be an L. But I'm hoping you pick the right thing here where we play the Seahawks at home, because
Seahawks at home I'm saying is a dub for me. Yeah. I think it's another one of those sort of passing on the escalators kind of thing. But just going to swing it home and away is the difference makers. So I think we'll take the dub versus the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I'm looking at now that we go back to the Vikings. Their buys in week 6. So I do feel like maybe
that would be the time for the change, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That
makes sense. I think that makes sense. You got 5 weeks, Sam, to make sure you got to convince us that it's you.
You're the guy.
And if not, you're up. But I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I think when you say about, I know you said about Seahawks on, in a transition as well, and it's for obviously Seahawks fans, to be excited. There's a couple of people I know within the organisation, and they said it's all changed. They're going to be airing the ball out there a little bit more, so you're going to see the likes of Jackson Smith and Jigba obviously have probably a bigger year.
Airing the ball out, and it's who's airing it out? It's Geno bloody Smith.
It is, but then I guess he has actually still shown obviously he can be a top QB when he needs to be. I'm just saying if you're being asked to be conservative before, and
that's
now
what I'm saying.
Are you getting a chance now?
That's it.
To show your arm, because he's got an arm.
Yeah, well. I think that's it though. Like you're bang on there. Like if Geno Smith plays above what we expect of him within a system that protects him, that limits the exposure for him to make mistakes and stuff like that. And then if you turn around there and say they're going to air the ball out a bit more, the weight suddenly goes right onto him, and he's going to be expected to make the plays. And for me,
Lockett, Metcalf, and Jigba, I'm just saying,
there's some good talent. There is some good talent, but
there to keep an eye on.
But again, it's still got to get into their hands,
And Aiden, we got the UK coach obviously gone over there. Aiden's obviously gone in there as defense coordinator. As well. So that'd be an interesting one. But
it's another one. They're one of these like pillars of the NFL, aren't they? Like you look at some of these guys, and you just sort of always go, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
I honestly think the points differential between both games combined will be 6.
Yeah. I can see that. See that.
Yeah, I think with third as well. I think to learn off a great defensive mind like McDonald, I think will only help him in his journey. I think the way he's going, the projection is eventually you think head coach in the NFL, and I think to learn off someone like McDonald will be only good things for Adam Dirty. Now, week 15 is your penultimate home game of the season against the New England Patriots.
That view. It's me. Is it me? It's winning.
It is. Yeah,
it doesn't matter who it is, Sam.
Yeah, that is a well and truly a win by them. Yeah, and they'll probably that whole Patriots team will be literally at that point. So that's a win for us.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the easy ones. But this one could be even easier, even though it's on the road against the Panthers. Back with you, Ollie.
Yeah, that's a dub. And this is what I meant about this back nine now. Yeah. It's obviously a dub versus the
last two games will really test your loyalty to your team here. Is week 17 is a road game against the LA Rams. Sam,
still not having us against the Rams. I think
it's fair.
Every time
until proved otherwise. Proved otherwise.
Yeah, we're not there. We're not there yet. This, when you mentioned earlier about next year, that's when we can maybe start.
I think that's it.
Where we are. We lose this one. That's an L for us so far.
So finally, week 18, Ollie, the power's in your hands. Now, there's always an asterisk week 18, especially with the team you're playing in the Niners. It could be number one seed at that point. It could be resting players, but So how are you feeling about that one?
I still think, regardless, it's the Niners, and I think it's similar to it's the same thing, Sam, with the Rams. Until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going to chalk it up to the 49ers. Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense within the division. If we go 1-1 with the Seahawks and 0-2 versus the Rams and the 49ers, I think anyone, with a brain would probably say, that makes sense. We're looking at next year and stuff, and there's going to be maybe a swing, I think you want to look in a couple of years' time, 49ers, there's trouble in paradise. You've got some contracts there that need fixing. That Super Bowl window, it's not going to be open forever. I think Kittle's 31. I think Williams is 36 and has thrown his toys out the pram about his contract. Ayuk, McCaffrey can't be forever.
This is their last year, mate.
I agree. The wheels are coming off.
Yeah, this is it. This will be their last chance, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that will leave you with a 9-8 record. Now, this
perfect. There we go.
Do you think that makes you in the playoffs? That's quite in the NFC, especially. It's
not in the division. I think if you just look at the division record, that would probably leave us tied with the Seahawks, and then the Rams and the 49ers will be in. So even just within the division, it's not going to be possible.
A winning season is where we need to be.
I agree. I think I'd be happy with 8 and 9 as well. I'd be happy with 8 and 9. Like I said at the start of the year, at the start of this podcast, 8 wins will take. But yeah, for me, 9 and 8, I'd be buzzing. I think you'd be at maybe a mid to late teens pick in the draft, a lot of cap space. You'd be turning a lot of heads at free agent talent. You'd be able to get them at a slight discount, because if it's $2 million a year difference between going to some bum team and us who are on the right, it makes no brainer.
Absolutely, and I think that will build you nicely into the following year. But that is where we will end this podcast for today, our Arizona Cardinals 2024 season preview. Once again, huge thank you to both Sam and Ollie for coming on today.
Top stuff.
Pleasure, mate. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. Those who are watching on YouTube, you can see on both their names their handles on Twitter or Instagram, so do give them a follow if you haven't already. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, and we will see you guys for our next team season preview. See you then.